Hello and welcome. My name is Celina, and I'm a part of the Let's Discuss A Course in Miracles webinar team at the Foundation for Inner Peace. The mission of the foundation is to publish, distribute, and discuss A Course in Miracles. And we hold these Let's Discuss online webinars as an expression of our vision of extending love through A Course in Miracles teachings. Today, we're bringing you In Holy Spirit's Timing, how Spanish paved the way for the translations. So before introducing our guests, I'm going to invite everyone to join us in prayer. Before every meeting and every webinar, we say a prayer, and it's usually the opening prayer from chapter 2. And we usually say it in English, but today, because of our topic and our guests, we are actually going to say the prayer in Spanish. And I'm going to invite Silvia Corzo, who is here with us today as a guest speaker, to say the prayer in Spanish today.
Hola, Celina, hola a todos, ¿cómo están? Con gusto, con mucho amor. La oración de apertura para todos es, estoy únicamente aquí para ser en verdad útil. Estoy aquí en representación de aquel que me envió. No tengo que preocuparme por lo que debo decir ni por lo que debo hacer, pues aquel que me envió me guiará. Me siento satisfecho de estar donde quiera que Él desee, porque sé que Él estará allí conmigo. Sanaré a medida que le permita enseñarme a sanar.
I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. Thank you, everyone. So now it's time for our Let's Discuss webinar. Today, we welcome you to this remarkable gathering where we will reflect on the extraordinary journey that led us to the Spanish translation of A Course in Miracles and the eventual publication of Un Curso de Milagros. What many may not realize is that Dr. Helen Schuckman, the scribe of the course, never wanted A Course in Miracles translated. She believed it would remain it would. She believed it should remain exclusively in English. However, in the way that only the Holy Spirit can orchestrate, it was divine guidance who paved the way for the course's first translation into Spanish. Today, we'll take a closer look at both the milestones and miracles that unfolded to make this possible. Our guest panelists will share their insights and experiences about how they ask, listen, and understand divine guidance in our daily lives. Today's session is both a retrospective and a celebration of the Course's living presence in the Spanish-speaking world and how the Holy Spirit continues to offer a guidance on our journey home. So I'd like to introduce our guests now. We have a very large group, and it's a true pleasure to have and welcome our panelists. I am joined today by Foundation President Tam Morgan, along with our guest, Carolina Corada, Elisa María Valentine Wynn. We also call her Isa. We have José Lorenzo Rodriguez, María Felipe, Miguel Iribarren, Patricia, Pato, Besada, and Silvia Corzo. Hola a todos, welcome. Hello, welcome to you all.
Hola.
Hola. Hola, hello.
Y
Hello.
tenemos a Celina también. We have Celina with
Yes, me too. Me too.
Certainly.
Oh, good to see your beautiful faces. So, you heard my introduction, and today is such a fun gathering and really an opportunity that we've been wanting to have for quite a while to both talk a little bit more about the Spanish story, but also, even more importantly, really how this course has impacted our lives, how we have listened to divine guidance and what we can share about Holy Spirit's timing in our own lives. And I think all of us, as we have course students and course teachers here, would have a lot to say on that. But before we go into those some of those topics about the course impacting our life, we want to share a little bit more about how it all happened. I shared in my introduction that Helen never even wanted to have the course translated. Did everybody know that?
I
And
didn't know that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-uh.
she never did. And Tam's going to talk probably about that a little bit more, but she didn't want it translated. And as I was going over some questions and some notes last night, I received what I was sharing with Tam earlier today, like an intuitive impression, like, oh, how do we introduce this? And what I got was, well, who would be the best person to introduce this? And it would be Judy herself, because she is the one who was there and she shared the story. And I found a beautiful video of Judy sharing the story of how it happened. Just to set it up for those who don't know, the first printings of the course actually happened about 1975. And then the course went on to be published in June of 1976. That was the first edition. And it was only in English. But it was actually in 1977 when there was outreach from an Emilio Guzman who talked to Judy, and I have her here, who she's going to share the story about it.
In 1977. This is what happened. Course in Miracles had just been published. And of course, we were having enough difficulty understanding how we were supposed to distribute this book ourselves because we weren't professional publishers. And so one of our friends who had written an article about the course in his very popular magazine was the first one to do an interview. And therefore, his magazine, which went to many people, told them about the arrival of the manuscript called A Course in Miracles, which we had just published in hardcover form. It wasn't long after that that we had a visitor to my apartment in New York City. Now, in those days, Helen and Bill, who were co-scribes of A Course in Miracles, Drs. Thetford and Dr. Schuckman, used to come to my apartment every day and visit, and we would study the course together. See, I think they were teaching me, but I didn't really know it at the time. In any event, we would spend time together, and with us also was Dr. Kenneth Wapnick. It was our little group, and there wasn't any other. And one day I got a letter from someone named Emilio Guzman. I never had heard of him before, but he introduced himself in a beautiful way. He wrote English beautifully. It was a very impressive letter. And he said he would like to come and talk with us, that he had been teaching silver mind control in Mexico, and that he was aware that I must know about it, which of course I did. I had many friends who went through the silver mind control program. And he said he would like to come and speak with Drs. Schuckman and Thetford and me about something that was really important to him. And it just felt absolutely right. And so I told him, of course, come ahead. And it wasn't long after that, maybe 2 weeks later, that he entered our apartment and was seated with us. And I was impressed right away with, number one, very handsome man. And number two, what a gentleman. I felt he was like an aristocrat. He was also quite a diplomat, and he really knew how to handle himself because he kissed Helen's hand, and right away she decided she loved him too. And we were all sitting around really enjoying the conversation. And he was quite eloquent about how the course came into his life and how he incorporated it into his own teachings. And he went from silver mind control to teaching a group of students in Mexico A Course in Miracles. And we were very impressed because we didn't know anyone from any other language who spoke another languages even looking at A Course in Miracles. But obviously, Emilio was very bilingual. His English was superb. And it was a delight being with him. Somewhere about 3/4 of the way through the day we spent together, Emilio decided to tell us why he came. And he said to us that, look, there are people in my country who really want to study this. And I've been translating it for them a little at a time so I could bring them into the thought system so they could hear the actual words of the course in their own language. And I would like permission to be able to make this public. I want to translate, be the official translator in the Spanish for A Course in Miracles and publish it. And Helen, who was looking at him adoringly before, as I said, he was very charming, said to him, "Over my dead body." And she meant it. The course was not to be translated into any other language. He, of course, was very courtly, and he said he'd like to know why she felt that way. And she said, it's hard enough in English. Someone who translated it would have to study the course for years, and even then, they would have to be something of a magician to make it come out the same way it is in English. Well, I knew from the look on his face he did not agree with that, but he said that he accepted her decision, and he hoped she would think it over and change her mind. She didn't. After Helen died, people did start to come forward and say they would like a course in their language. Some of them were actual professional translators or in the academic community and wanted to volunteer their time to translate the course, which was, of course, as you know, a tremendous volume, 1,500 pages. And it astounded us that the course seemed to want to take itself into other countries and other languages. So we did what we did whenever we had to face an issue. We sat and we asked in quiet, is the course supposed to be translated? And lo and behold, it was Bill Thetford then and Kenneth Wapnick and I. We got the answer, yes. Kenneth Wapnick wasn't really so much in favor of it, but I got a very strong response that we were supposed to. And we remembered Emilio. But while we were thinking about it, cogitating over it and praying some more over it, we got a call from a young woman named Rosa Marie Wynn. And she and a Fernando Gomez came to our home. By that time, we were living in California. And they said they had inner guidance to translate A Course in Miracles into Spanish, that they had been partners in teaching yoga, I believe, so that they worked well together and that they each had different backgrounds and they thought that they could do an excellent job. We didn't know if they could or they couldn't. We didn't have anyone to read it. So we told them to give us a sample and actually sent it to Emilio. And Emilio wrote back and needed a lot of work, that they weren't really yet professional translators, although Fernando himself was, but in a different field, mostly legal, I believe, and that he felt that they would need a lot of help. And he was willing to edit their work, and I'm sure also refer to what he had already done himself. So that was the way the Spanish got started. And Emilio, we used to call Rosa Maria and Fernando the kids, because he was indeed much older than they were. But we had many more happy meetings together. And his work was inestimable. It was so valuable that we wouldn't all have the course today if it weren't for Emilio. And of course, Rosa Maria, and of course, Fernando. Thank you for listening to my story.
So that was Judy. That is Judith Sketch-Whitson. She's the founder of the Foundation for Inner Peace and also Tam's mom. So she was the best person to tell that story, what happened in 1977. But it goes on from there. And maybe Tam could jump in here and talk a little bit more about if she knew that part, and really how it was Tam who helped them take the next step.
Thank you. I don't know if I helped them take the next step, but in theme with this webinar, I answered a call. And when we hear inner guidance, we answer a call inside. And this time it was kind of literal. But I will say my mother's story, first of all, one really has to be careful when one says, especially in the course world, over my dead body. When one ends a sentence with that, because in the course, we know there's no such thing as death. But in this world of illusion, we got to use a loophole about that. And also, when we hear guidance, and this is what I hope our conversation will move into, it doesn't mean that it is forever. It means that guidance is for when you're asking it. And so Helen's ego got very strong about over my dead body, but I will tell you that she felt that because of the exacting work from the channeling to the scribing that she did, she passionately felt that the course should never be translated into any other language than English, because I think she felt that she was the first translator, because she didn't get most of it. Later, she started to get it in iambic pentameter in English, but certainly in the beginning, how she herself says, and we have her actually recorded as saying this, she did not get words. She got tones, and she didn't get downloads in words. She got sound loads, and they were vibrational, and they were very, very much her being as a channeler, healing and hearing, a full, what she called a symphony. So, and she called the course the symphony, because she was so exacting in how she went over it and over it to make sure that it resonated with the sound vibration that she heard coming through to her, that her mind got to instantly translate into words. So she felt kind of like, if anyone has researched the Kabbalah, each letter in the Hebrew language has a different tonal sound. And each letter is very holy. And when you combine them, there's feelings that sensations, meanings that come through the combination of those letters and sounds. Helen felt that about the course, and that she worked so hard on the symphony she created that she had come through her and translated, that she didn't want it to be in any other language, because how could they get that same tone of healing that the direct English that she brought could give it? So that's where she came from. Now, let's go to next steps here. And that was respected by the group. They understand her passion for it. And Ken thought of it as a symphony and described it as much as well. All I can tell you is what happened in my world was I was at visiting my mother's home in California. She had moved, but ever since I was in my teens, we all knew anyone visiting my mother's, except for an assistant who was hired to do so, you don't answer the telephone. And you don't answer the telephone because there's always someone on it who wants to tell you their story, or ask you to do something in a million different ways, or tell you about aliens and UFOs when she was in consciousness research. And you were stuck for a minimum of 20 minutes to much longer on the phone when you didn't know the person and you had a busy day. So we never answered the phone, and we would have dinners where in the background, we didn't turn the phone off. It was hard back then when you just had an old-fashioned telephone. It just rang and rang, and visitors would come and laugh at this. But I particularly knew never to answer the phone in her office, because they're in like madness. So this one day I happened to be in her home. She was out. Bob Scutch was out. The person who was the assistant was out, and the phone rang, and I just heard answer it. And sometimes I fight with my little hearing of Holy Spirit. No, I don't want to answer it. No, I don't want to answer it. And my hand just went, picked it up, and there was a woman who was immediately speaking very quickly with a heavy Spanish accent, saying, "Oh, I'm so happy to speak with you, and I so want to speak with Judy, but no one would let me, and I've called Bob Scutch several times in the past 2 years, and he wouldn't let me speak to Judy." And she just kept going on, and I wasn't listening to what she was saying. I was just thinking, why did I have to answer this? And she kept going, and all I kept hearing was, she wants to speak to Judy. What is blocking her from doing so? And so I just said, okay, I'll get you in touch with my mother. I'll let you speak to her. And she had, overjoyed. Would you really? It's like, she's my mother. All I have to do is say, speak to you. and it seemed that easy to me, but she seemed overjoyed. Anyway, hung up, and I told my mother, you really need to speak to this woman because and my mother said, why? And I said, I don't really know. I just told her that, you should, you would, and you will. And my mother most always listened to me if I heard a guidance. And so that's what happened next. She talked to Rosa Maria, and it was time. It was just time, is all I can say, because when they did that next ask, it was, yes, it's time now. And it is over Helen's dead body in world of form. And I promise you, knowing Helen like I did, if she didn't want it after death, when she's still very much present, it would not have happened. A different perspective came in from this world to be able to have this. And the work that Rosa Maria and team did was so extraordinary. So I'd love to hear from each of you. And I will say that the listening, it comes in any language. And even in English, when I hear in English, I pretend sometimes that I don't understand because I don't want to do what it's saying. But as we do the practice more and more, we know that it is for the good of not just ourselves, but for everyone. It's always an all win. And that's why I love that Rosa Maria's last name was Wynn. And because it was an all win. And here I'm going to bring this to Rosa Maria's daughter, because we have been partners in time and partners in crime and partners in joy and love throughout. And so Isa, his last name was also Wynn at one point. Tell us what you have to contribute here, which is always outpours of love.
Oh, thank you so much, Tam. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm so honored and truly grateful to be here. Yeah, it's wonderful to hear that story from different angles. I've heard it a number of times from my mom and other people in my family who have recounted it to me from their perspective. And it's a really beautiful story of divine timing and of following inner guidance, because that was really what guided my mom every step of the way, from the very beginning. When she had been on a spiritual path for many years and had explored many different modalities, and there's all of these different paths, as we know. But when she found the course, it was like she had found it for her. That was it for her, and her devotion to Jesus was completely unmatched. And everything she did was through that love of Christ. And she told the story about being turned, about feeling the inner voice dictating to her, you have to translate the course. You have to translate the course. And after calling the foundation and making her plea, she was turned down not once, not twice. Or actually, not once but twice, right? And then after that, some time had passed, and she kept hearing the voice, try again, try again. And despite much internal resistance, she followed the call, and she called in the right moment, and obviously Tam picked up the phone that day, and she was able to get through to Judy and communicate her heart to Judy in a way that Judy was able to hear. And I truly believe it was the Holy Spirit working through her, because I know that she had a really important mission here, and sharing the teachings of the course with the Spanish-speaking world was her mission from that moment forward. And that was just the beginning of it. So yeah, I know that in those early years of the translation, she just became completely devoted to her work. And I was talking to my dad today about his experience of her and how he remembered her during that time. And he said that she was just so devoted to translating the poetry of the course. It was so important to her to understand the essence and the meaning of the course to the point that she could actually translate that. And it was, she was insistent that it had to be as beautiful as it was in English, which is a very hard, monumental task, as we know, as much of it was written in iambic pentameter. But, he told the story of, of her sitting down, going over line, one line hundreds of times with Fernando. And she had a team of, they called them readers, but they were, the scholars that would work with her in her home office, and as they would complete a section of work, the readers would go through it and edit it and, give them advice on how to make it better. And, it's funny because during that time I was in that home office in my first 2 years of my life. Because she had read a book called The Continuum Concept, in which basically it said, during the early years, babies should not be put down. And I was born very shortly after the translation began. And so she was insistent that I would not be put down and I would not be far from her. So she had this team of people and even the scholars, the readers would be holding me. And so it was just a really cool experience from looking back now, realizing that the earliest years of my life were just immersed in that space. And as they're going over the passages, trying to understand the meaning and really get deep into that learning, into the experience of it. And for her, understanding the meaning meant living it, right? And it was as she learned more about the course and how it taught, there's only two emotions: there's love and there's fear, right? And so she took that to heart. She decided, when I was only 2 years old, she decided she wanted to confront her fears in the most ultimate way, including jumping out of an airplane. So she decided she had to confront her fear of death. And she took it upon herself to become a skydiver. And that was part of her practice, her inner practice in confronting fear in her life, in her everyday life, and embodying the teachings of the course. Which, for her, I think just resonated so much with who she was and who she always had been. She always had a deep love for Jesus and this kind of natural inclination to see the Christ in everyone, to see the highest in everyone. And if it's okay, I'd like to share a quick story about that from her earlier years, even before she found the course. It's a really cool story. So she was a young woman, I believe it was in Puerto Rico, and she was walking in the streets at night by herself, and a man came up behind her with a knife. And he held the knife to her back. And he said the most horrible things about himself. I'm a heartless man. I don't care if I live or die. I've done the most horrible things, just really just so much, self-deprecation and just, so much self-hatred that she heard from him. And it's like, just give me your purse or whatever. And then, instead of responding in fear, like most of us would, like, please take my bag, don't kill me, she responded with love, and emphatically so, in almost a tough love way. She got mad at him. How can you say this about yourself? This is not who you are. Your past does not define you. You can always choose again. And in a moment, the man was completely shook to his bones. I mean, broke down in tears, dropped the knife, and fell to his knees. And started thanking her in total gratitude for her. And I mean, what a beautiful example of, the embodiment of the course's teachings. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about her.
It's beautiful, Isa. I'm going to show a picture of your mom quickly here, if I may. This is Rosa Maria Wynn, and I loved this shot of her. We have a video of her reading the introduction of the course, and this is right at the end of this video, and she takes the course and she holds it to her heart. She gives us the most beautiful smile. So as you were telling this story, Isa, this made me think of this image, and I wanted to share it with you all and for everyone so they can see who Rosa Maria Wynn is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isa. I also wanted to say with my mother and the over her dead body parts, being with your mother while she was transitioning was so beautiful because she was in incredible pain. And all she did was give messages of love about Jesus through her pain, through her screaming, okay, I give you this, Jesus, I give you that. I've never experienced anything so strong in the passion for Jesus as her in horrible pain and handing it over and handing it over and handing it.
Mhm.
And she did look at me and she said, Jesus has a message for you too. And I said, right now while you're screaming? And she just like calmed down. And he said,
But
rock. He says, rock your outrageousness. I'm like, okay. And then she went back to her screaming. And it was the most beautiful screaming I'd ever seen.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Jesus was with her, up until the end of her, her time in her physical body. And
yeah.
her passion for Jesus was definitely something that I'm only now beginning to understand and just starting to touch that and understand that in my life and the joy and the love of, being in communion with Christ. And so I'm so thankful to her for having shown me that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite extraordinary. And even talk about inner listening, which we are going to move towards. I was watching that little clip of my mother, and I promise you, had she seen herself like that, she would have said, over my dead body will I be in a webinar without makeup, my hair done. I'm not kidding. And she completely heard let it go just show up over and over again. And it was so unlike her to do that. I mean, while she was dying, she needed her lipstick on. So yeah, the inner listening, when we do it, you'll find yourself doing things you never thought you would do. And I'm going to hand it over to Maria. I would love if each of you would just give a story about yourself, how you got to this, and we'll have to make it quicker than long because I see there's so many of us. So just the strong points that you want to convey so we can know where you are in this. Maria.
Thank you, Tam. Thank you
You can
so
pass
much.
someone else.
Thank you, everybody. Well, so much was coming up. I was just getting so excited first that the course was translated in Spanish. The Latino community, Spanish speakers, are so passionate about the Course in Miracles in Spanish, and they appreciate it so much. Being in both the English speakers and the Spanish speakers are so, not that the English ones aren't, but they're so devoted and they're so passionate. I remember in the 90s when I found the course, the first group I ever went to my first group was in Spanish. And I identified more with English at the time just because I've been speaking English so long, even though my mom taught me Spanish when I was younger. I had become very Americanized living in Miami and spoke very good English, and just all the books I read were in English. So I really wanted an English study group. But Tam, I don't know why, the course always follows me in Spanish. The audiences follow me in Spanish. I just can't get away from it. It's like I have to be in the Latino market, whether I like it or not. And I just keep on hearing the call. I'm actually right now in Mexico at Namaste Village, which is James Twyman's community, and serving in English and doing the sessions in English. But ironically enough, this is how passionate they are. I went to a group here that they had me speak about the course, and this beautiful lady, Laura, here in Mexico, she comes up to me, she goes, Maria, I love the way you speak about the course. Can you please do something in Spanish? We need something in Espanol. You're in Mexico. So I said, you know what, Laura, I'm open. I'm here in Mexico. I leave on Sunday. She says, this is how passionate they are, Tam. She's like, I'm going to tell all my friends from Guadalajara, which is a little farther from Ajijic, and I'm going to bring them over. I'm going to have them sleep over my house, and we're going to meet you so you can tell us about the Course of Miracles in Spanish. So that's how excited they are. Even when my book came out, Vive Feliz in Spanish, in Mexico, they created a whole tour for me in Espanol. So it's really a gift that it all came together. Aside from Helen Schuckman, we know that she was a little bit stubborn, a lot stubborn. And you know what? Speaking of spirit and how it moves through us, Tam, when something is supposed to be, it will be. And look how beautiful it's all come together with the phone call from Rosa Marie Wynn and you picking up and then it happening. And then it was supposed to come to life. And I know why. porque Espíritu habla español también. Spirit speaks Spanish too. And it's absolutely beautiful. You read El Curso Milagros en español and it's stunning. It's beautiful. The words, the way that prayer you guys opened with. For me, it's gold. And listening to the Holy Spirit, how it's all come through everyone to make it happen. It's such a gift. And one last thing is, for me, the Holy Spirit is our superpower. I always say that. The Holy Spirit is the drive. The Holy Spirit is everything. And as Tam was saying before, we opened, and Celine too, like, let's just hang out and be friends. And that's the beauty of the course, is that we can't mess it up. We just show up, try to do our best, and let Spirit speak through us, make it light, make it fun, make it happy as best as we can. Sometimes not so much, but we choose again. We choose God again. So yeah, amen that the course exists in Spanish. It's such an honor. The people of the Spanish community, I can't express it enough, are so passionate about it. Even my Instagram page for the Spanish community is like 70,000 and the English is 40. That tells you everything. And I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, I'm going to say this here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Spanish speaking market might be bigger than the American one. I don't know. I'm just leaving that right there. I'm almost, because I'm out there and I've seen it over and over again. So I'm just saying. And it wasn't supposed to be translated in Spanish. Okay.
It's
That's
all what it is. What Whit, my stepfather, my mother's third husband, said, and he was the one in charge of all the translations. Love translates the same in any language. Not in the word itself, but in the being. So if this teaches you in any language to experience love, let go of fear, it's doing its job. Okay, who else?
yeah, there.
Miguel.
Me. Okay.
Sure. I mean, we can pick each other. Anyone can jump in, but jump in.
Yeah, well, I will tell the story of how the course came to my life, which is quite interesting for me. I was living in Spain, in Barcelona. I had a very difficult relationship with a woman who, by the way, was a spiritual teacher herself. And I was really desperate. I was totally like at the end of my wits. So one day I really prayed, like, if there's anybody out there, please help me. Please help me. I'm not gonna make it alone this time. That was very clear to me. And then maybe I'm a translator. I was translating at the time. And then in 1 month time, I got the disappearance of the universe from Gary Renard to be translated. So that was like, that really shook me. It was like a change of mind, like a change of plan. And I must be like in the very slow group, because I am reading Disappearance of the Universe for the 28th time and still not fully getting it. So yeah, for me, it was like the answer of the Holy Spirit is forever. So that was the forever answer for me, is study Disappearance of the Universe, and of course, the course. So that was the beginning for me. That was the getting in touch with it. And that moved me to joining groups and studying it and practicing. And meeting with my partner, Jordi Del Rey, we got the idea of establishing a publisher to help publish all the material into Spanish. There was a lot of material being published in America in English, some in England also. But we had a very clear idea that we wanted to all this stream of information to go into Spanish. And so we began around in 2009, and that's what we have been doing for the last 15 years, translating many of the materials, different authors from America mainly. And yeah, and I mean, it's been very, very, at a personal way for me, as a personal story, it's been like a slow going up to a higher vibration, closer to the light, let's say, or yeah, higher feelings and happier life, and slow but continuous transformation. So I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for the course. By the way, I think Rosa Maria's translation is absolutely excellent. I have always defended it when there was controversy around that. I think she did an incredible job. An incredible job. Very, very.
There is no, I'm so glad you think so. And I will say there's no defense necessary for all of these works. What shines through, and they're all,
Yeah, absolutely.
they really are. And
and also I would like to add one more thing. What really touched me of the course is not so much the metaphysics, which are very obviously more than interesting, but it was the beauty. It is the beauty that really conquers the heart, that really conquers the mind. And it was like that for me. It is the beauty of the words expressed there that really touched me. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I will say, I think I've told you this before, Miguel, but I will say that so many people think that if they just do all the lessons in the course and they've read it, that they're done. And my mother was doing it when she was 90 with a small group of us, and she called the group the Slow Learners Group, because she never, ever felt done, no matter what level she got to, deeper and deeper and deeper. So it's for many who really are hearing that the course will meet you at any level you are. So you think you understand it the first read, and then 10 years later, you're reading it on a whole nother level, and it meets you there. That's why we call it a living document, because it responds to who you are at that moment. So I'm in the slow learners group, very clearly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'd like to add something else. When I met Rosa Maria in Barcelona once, she told us, I have read the book over 200 times. Yeah. So that made me a measure of the kind of work that was necessary.
Which is extraordinary when a translator is given that passion to do a translation, because they have to read it that many times. So I always think, oh, you need this, don't you, in your life? Because they're sure going to be taken in and gone through a lot of challenges. So it is.
Yeah, and absolutely. It's like whenever you read it, it's like your mind goes into a different path, a different realm. Well, and in fact, I have ended up using both Course in Miracles and Disappearance of the Universe as a way to connect, but in themselves. It's just there's like an open door, it's like knocking on the door. Reading is like knocking on the door. And
speaking of that and people doing that, I'd love to call on Silvia and let us know what you've done with the course.
Silvia surrendered herself to the Father and said, I'm willing to work for you, but I still need to make my living. So guide me. And just a few days after that, she received a call asking if she would be willing to be part of a casting where her voice would be casted for recording the audio book for the Course in Miracles in Spanish, and she was thrilled. She realized that it was guided and how Spirit had answered very quickly, and she began doing the recordings, and these lasted 7 years. Wow, I had no idea. 7 years, and then a couple more editing, I would imagine, and that's how it came to be.
Let's hear from who has not spoken yet. We go. Jose Lorenzo.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. Well, I guess what I have to add is that I'm super grateful the translation to Spanish happened. At the time that the course came into my life, I was 15. I didn't speak English, so Spanish was the only possibility for me. And I think at the time, internet was not a thing in my home. It was in 2000. So I don't think I could have translated it with Google Translate. But I want to agree with everyone on the beauty of the language, how it was preserved. I think she did a fantastic job. I've been a defender of the beauty of the Spanish translation for years. I think it's just stunning. I remember many of the prayers by heart in the book, and just the melody of it. Some of the melody is kept in Spanish, which I'm super happy for.
And tell us what you were doing with the course.
At the time, you mean? Or
Yeah.
Well, as I said before, I was just a teenager.
No, I mean now.
Now, okay, well, I'm a teacher of the course right now. Pretty much dedicated to it, not exclusively. Don't dedicate all my time to it. I still have a regular job, but it feels like a second job right now. Like I dedicate almost all of my free time to it. I'm teaching mostly Spanish speakers, and I have some groups here. I live in Denmark. I teach in English and some mixed Danish English because I'm not too fluent in Danish yet. I have some Spanish speakers here in Denmark who study with me as well. And I also do therapy based on A Course in Miracles to people who are interested in that.
Thank you. Thank you. And Patricia.
Thank you, Tam, for the invitation, and such an honor to be here. And I didn't believe in God. I was so peaceful with the idea of a non-existent God. I didn't get any interest in spirituality or New Age or whatever. The world seemed so clear to me. The relation seemed very, very clear to me. So I was okay with that. But one day I received an invitation to go to a meeting where a lady was about to speak about New Age stuff. And my husband phoned me and said, "You've got to go." And I did. And I really, really get so bored with that approach. So I left. But 2 months later, I pick up the phone and a lady said, "Listen, you were in a meeting and I am inviting you to join a group to study A Course in Miracles." And my answer was, "A what?" I have never heard about A Course in Miracles. And so I went. And we were supposed to repeat a one-liner every day. That was what the Course in Miracles was about. And I said to myself, I did such a lot of silly things in my life that doing this another silly thing is not a big deal. So I started to repeat the idea, just one-liner. Picture me repeating one-liner every day. It happened 3 or 4 months later that I started to think that something was missing. Internet was just an idea. I am a pre-Googlean lady. So no phones, no mobile phones, no internet at home. So when I was at my office, I type on Alta Vista browser un curso de milagros. 0 answers, 0. And then I said to myself, why not search A Course in Miracles in English? again, I didn't know a thing about the course. I didn't know where it came from and all the things we know now. I type a course in miracles, of miracles, about miracles, in miracles. And then I discover a whole new world about miracles. What I did was inevitable. I download a piece, I don't remember which was, and I share that with my study group because we were about 20, 25 women repeating one-liner every day. So after a while at MDC, Miracle Distribution Center, there was a board where you put a message about, I am moving to Montreal, I'm looking for a study group. So I started to find the group in Spanish because there was none. And I couldn't find any. But I found a message that really hit the back of my head. It was from a student from Holland looking for someone to study the course seriously. And the word seriously really got me. So I wrote to him, Dear Wynn, I am Pat, I'm studying a course in miracles, blah, blah, blah. And we started to exchange emails always from my office. And he couldn't believe that I was consider myself a student and didn't have the book. That all the thing that I was doing was repeating one-liner every day. I really felt uncomfortable with his opinion about my approach. But you can imagine what happened next. A few months later, the doorbell rang and a postman brought to me my copy, which is still my copy of A Course in Miracles. So that was a whole new world to me. I tried to keep the lessons, you know, I was on lesson 180 something, and I said, oh, come on, I'm going to do the next one. But then I found many paragraphs, but I said, I'm going to do it. So I did what any good student really does. I started from the introduction. And since that day on, A Course in Miracles is my north. It's the way I live. It's my daily bread.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Tam.
And Carolina, we've heard from you in translation, but now let's hear from you in you.
Hi, thank you so much. Yes, I have to say that the Course in Miracles, Jesus before the Course in Miracles, because I've been a Jesus girl all my life, probably like Rosa Maria and many of other people that I have met through time. I was dedicated to Jesus. I spoke to Jesus every day. This was way before the Course. I discovered the Course. So in my mind, I had conversations with Jesus. Twice a day in the morning, I met with him. He spoke to me, I spoke to him, and then I started my day. And then at the end of the night, I would do the same thing. I would go in my mind and find him, and he would be meeting, and there would be a lesson for me. And this was very, very private. And I thought I was crazy, but it was so enjoyable and so helpful that that's what I did. And then my friends knew, this was in my mid-20s, my friends knew that I had a special, very devoted love for Jesus, not the Catholic Jesus, but just Jesus. I don't just Jesus, no religion around him. So I used to get books all the time. Oh, this is a new book about Jesus, and this is about, the scarf of Jesus, and this is about the whatever. So one day a friend comes over, and I had just become a mom. I'm a mom to twins, and I had just had my kids. Well, maybe they were 1 or 2 years old, and he comes with this little bunch of photocopied prints, and he says, "You want to take a look at this and tell me what you think?" It was in English, and I read it, and I started reading, and I heard Jesus's voice. It was the same Jesus that I was talking to. And I told him, "What is this? This is Jesus. Where'd you get this?" And he explained to me that the course in Venezuela, I was living in Venezuela, that the course was a required reading for the rebirthing school of Venezuela. And that since he heard that it was written, it was the voice of Jesus, that he thought he'd play, a trick on me and give me several pages. So actually the course came to my house. It was brought to me by a friend. And then we decided, I want to get this book. So we wrote to the foundation, just like Pato, like Patricia, because it was more or less probably the same time. There was no Google, nothing. We had to write by mail. I sent an email, and then it took about 2 weeks to get there, and then 2 weeks back, and so forth and so on. And we finally discovered that there was a Spanish translation. It was just out of the oven, basically. Well, not exactly, but it was new. And that, yes, we could send for a box of books. So we ordered a box of books. I remember there were 9 books in that box. And I started with the English version in the photocopies, and then the book arrived, and it's the same book. Yeah. No longer has anything written on it. I've kept it all these years. And I have no words because my life completely changed. I studied it by myself for 10 years, probably with Patricia, like she said before. There were no course groups that I knew of. And I never even thought that there would be groups to study it. I just knew I had to study it, and I prayed, and I did the lessons, and I surrendered, and I spoke to Jesus, and it became my whole life, but also my family's life. My kids, my mother, my partner, everybody got involved into the Course in Miracles. And then there came a point when maybe about 8 years into the course, more or less 8 years maybe more, maybe 9 years into the course, where I got fired from my job. The house I rented was going to go on sale. My children's school, it was a private school. They were doubling the fee, and I couldn't pay for it. I was a single mom. And somebody invited me to another part of the country. They said, "Why don't you come here and teach the course here? We don't have a Course in Miracle teacher." This was in the Andes Mountains. And I thought, why don't I? And there was no answer. So I figured, okay, then I'll go there. We'll move because I don't have a job. We don't have a house. We'll just go there. But before that, I prayed very deeply. And I heard very clearly, "You work for me now, only for me." So that was the last time I had a job in the world. Then we moved, and my journey started first on donation basis. I had classes every single day in this city called María, and for the first time, I was called the Course in Miracle teacher. This was in 2004 when this move happened. And I have so many anecdotes that, it's too long and we're too many. But we've done, I remember part of the questions that you had, or the ideas that you had in mind, was the anecdotes, the inner anecdotes. How do I listen to the Holy Spirit? You know? How does it happen? And for me, there are times when I hear a voice, like who was saying, well, some of us have already said it, that I hear a voice, but many, many, many times the symbols are so clear that it's like hearing a voice. a symbol, a song, a smell, something that will prompt me into making decisions. I've been guided to make life-changing decisions for my whole family, only following guidance. My mom said once, we are making the impossible decisions with the guidance of the Holy Spirit. And yeah,
Yeah.
for
Oh,
me,
thank you. That is what is extraordinary about it, because they seem to be impossible decisions, and yet there's the Holy Spirit. And I remember at one point there was something, I kept showing up for foundation work long before I was the co-president and then the president. But one of those times was with Rosa Maria about remuneration for some of the work that she did. And there was disagreement with everyone. I think she brought her lawyer, and my mother had someone, and I was there, and my stepfather was there. And we were all kind of talking, and then we just decided to do an ask. And we all, I think there were 5 of us, we were all quiet and asked. And when we came out, we all had the exact same number. And it so much works that way. And Foundation for Inner Peace, our work is continually, there's a lot of different personalities there. So when we get stuck and we do an ask, if we don't all hear the same answer, we wait and ask again. We go to, it's not majority rules. It's let's wait until we all come together, because that is where the truth lives. And I have to say, I'm so overjoyed that you're all here, but I recognize that our focus was a little bit off, because we were going to have a lot of questions and answers and have us all have this discussion, when really this feels like a beautiful intro to who all of you participants in the Spanish speaking language are here, and what you're doing and how you got here. That I know we are going to have part 2 of this so that we can absolutely continue it in the discussion that we really thought we were going to be having. And this was extremely important. I get a lot of letters when people write to me and say, wait a second, you titled your webinar this, and you didn't get to this or that person. And I want to say that the moment that prayer that we read, we are here to be truly helpful, and you will direct us. The moment that gets said, it's a free-for-all, because we truly turn it over to Holy Spirit. So I know that this introduction was what was supposed to happen, way more than our focused questions and answers. But I will say we do have like a half an hour for maybe one question that each one of us can answer, because there's so much passion and so much long-windedness in each of us to get to explain what we're saying. So Celina, do you want to throw one in for the crowd before our part 2 will come? And I will promise that.
Absolutely. And anyone can share. What personal experiences might you want to share that have helped you each trust in the voice of the Holy Spirit more deeply?
I'm happy to jump in and say every personal experience, because each time I go off course, I get recorrected and brought back. And when I hear something, I can be rebellious, go, I hear that, but no, my ego so wants to do this, let me. And I'm always allowed to. And it always shows me that my ego is not giving the best interest, not only for myself, but also for everyone else. So my life is continually guided by instruction and bringing me to hearing. And I would love to hear from any of you. Does anyone want to
jump in?
Yay!
Please.
But 2 things. I really like what you say, Tam, and something that Carolina said. Like, one of the often repeated answers on how do you know the Holy Spirit voice is in your head and not others is, oh, well, you feel so much peace when you hear the voice that it must be the Holy Spirit. But that's not always true, right? Like, you fight the answers, and sometimes you're really afraid of what the Holy Spirit is saying to you, but then you do as he instructs, and then you realize that you just said that that was the right answer, that was in your best interest. So I have maybe 2 anecdotes that I can share here in the voice. One was many years ago. I wanted to do this month-long workshop with some teachers of the course in Venezuela, but it was really pricey because it was basically you needed to pay for the stay. It was a month of stay in a hotel to do this training. I was a student at the time, had no money. So the 31st of December, we have in Venezuela a tradition that you would eat 12 grapes and make a wish with each grape for the new year. So my grapes were not wishes, they were just questions to the Holy Spirit or asked. And I said, Holy Spirit, I really want to do this, go to this course. And if that's in the plan, if you want me to go, show me. If not, also show me, because I will also follow that. And then months passed, I was getting really anxious, like there was no clear way that I would be going to that course. And then I had a dream with the teacher of this course. And he said to me in the dream, stop being anxious because I am waiting for you. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds great. And then the day after, I met with his nephew. And I told the story to the nephew, and he was all amazed, like, wow, that's an incredible story. But because I had the same dream the last night. How come? Yeah, I dreamt. And my uncle said, tell Jose that I'm waiting for him to stop being so anxious. Like, okay, should we call him now? Yeah, let's call him. So we call the uncle, and he, like, first 2 words says, like, are you with Jose? Yeah, tell him to come in December. Wow. So he waived the fee for the stay at the hotel, and I did the course, which I'm super grateful for. And then a second anecdote, also very short, was when coming here to Denmark, I heard a voice or a sensation that I should move to Europe. And then I made plans. Okay, how do I go to Europe? I speak French, for example. Then obviously I need to go to France. And I just graduated from college, so obviously I need to make a master's. Like, that would be the obvious plan. So I make all these plans, and they all fell apart. Like, I didn't get into the schools, and then I made mistakes applying for some of them. So there was no plan, and I was really disoriented. So one night I said, Holy Spirit, I thought you said I would be moving to Europe. If that's still in the plan, let me know. If not, also let me know, because I don't know what to do. The day after, someone writes me on the internet with a job offer to come here to Denmark. So if that's not guidance, I don't know what it is. It was very clear that the help would come after asking what the plan is. Like, I think what was interrupting with Holy Spirit's plan was my own plans, like how it needs to be accomplished. I just needed to ask, okay, what do you have in store for me?
That's really beautiful, and a testament of really releasing our own control and trusting in the divine timing and guidance. Thank you so much, Jose. Who else would like to go talk about trust? Maria, did you have your hand up? Oh, you're on mute.
23.
Oh, hold on. Let me go ahead. You are on mute, Maria.
Trust is everything. You know, trust is everything. For me, throughout my journey with the course since the 90s and listening to Spirit, I remember when I was a little girl, I was maybe 6 years old, and I was sitting on a couch. I remember I was just speaking out loud. I think I was crying, and I was in despair. And I remember a sensation or a feeling of some sort of energy next to me. And I was curious of what the energy was. Again, I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. And I asked the energetic field next to me, what is it? And it said to me, I'm the Holy Spirit. And that's when I was 6 years old. After that, I began my journey as becoming an adult and getting into life and forgetting what's really true. So when I walked into the course group I was saying in Spanish, and it was about 1995, and they were kept on talking about the Holy Spirit. It ignited me because it reminded me of the presence of the Holy Spirit when I was 6 years old. And even though I couldn't understand anything, or I didn't even understand what the book was saying, especially in Spanish, because my group was in Spanish, I knew, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this, felt the call to study it, even if you don't understand what it's saying. One of the things that I've learned into listening to Spirit for me that has been very, very helpful has been letting go of judgment. When I am letting go of judgment, when I am in a situation and I let go of my perception of what I think it is, and I try to give it a name or I judge it, it cuts me off from from the Holy Spirit. It cuts me off from listening, because if I judge, I can't hear. It's like the perception or the guidance that I'm getting is one of separation. So what has helped me through the years connect more has been two things. One, in my later years, now in the past 3 or 4 years, has been questioning my mind with Holy Spirit, asking Spirit for guidance. That could be channeling. I started to channel very well when I was in Pathways of Light to become a minister at Pathways of Light. For 3 years, I was channeling. And what I mean by that is simply get a paper and you ask a question and you go inside and you receive information and you jot it down. And if you don't get anything, and I didn't at the beginning, I would just write, I'm not getting anything, I'm pissed off. I would literally write that. It's okay. It's just, it's no judgment there. It's just writing. And as soon as I started to channel more and more, and for 3 years I meditated and channeled, now it's automatic. And I even coming to Mexico was so guided, and I knew I had to be here. For me, it's an experience that I have in my corazón, as I like to say, in my heart. It's something, and I'm sure everybody can relate to this, when you just know. I can't even put it in words. You just know that you need to be there. You know that it's the perfect timing. You don't understand. Sometimes you're like, this is crazy. And I'm sure everybody can relate here that's in the panel and those watching right now, that you've done things in life that are so upside down, but you're like, this is it. This is it. Even marrying, Tam knows my wedding story, meeting my husband, Christian, and meeting him at a retreat and getting married, everything within 6 months, getting pregnant within 6 months. It's just, I just jumped on that train. I call it the happy train, not knowing what was expected. I mean, I was already a very visual teacher, and I didn't, getting married, having a child so quickly, and this could all go to, where very quickly. But I didn't care because I knew that it was the path. I knew that I wasn't in control. The more that we allow our willingness, letting go of that voice of fear, which helps you get there, at least for me, has been the channeling and has been letting go of judgment. Letting go of what I think is happening, letting go of the God complex. Trust is everything to do with letting go of the God complex. I don't know anything. I really don't. And it's really helped me to do that, because I always thought I knew everything. I control, manipulation. I'm sure none of you do that. No control. It was just always controlling, manipulation. And I got so done with that. And I was like, I'm just going to trust. I'm just going to trust, because this way feels so much better. And that's where I get to really have an epic. I like to always say, my desire is every day to have an epic, incredible relationship with the Holy Spirit, the love of my life. And everybody has the power to heal within them. That's why the course is so powerful, because it changes your life. And every teacher has said it here today. It changes your life. And it changes your life because it reminds you you've never left the memory of God. You've never left it. It's here. Do you feel it?
Mhm.
Do you feel it? And now? And then, and now? And then now. This is it.
That's beautiful, Maria. Thank you so much. We would like to continue with that question. We have a few more minutes. And Carolina, I would like to ask you if you wouldn't mind. We're going to keep it short, but would you please ask Silvia if she would like to answer that question about how she hears the voice and how she's learned to trust? And we'll just keep it to a couple of minutes so we all have enough time to answer.
Silvia, ella quiere que respondas. ¿Entendiste lo que ella preguntó? No. Que respondas la pregunta.
Sí, y voy a responder por Tico para que tú puedas ayudarme a traducir con el grupo de panelistas. Gracias. Desde el primer momento en el que empecé a hacer el curso, yo empecé a sentir, no una voz, fue como una certeza
Since the
interior.
moment necesito ir así porque si no, no me voy a acordar de todo. Since the beginning, since the first time I met the course, I did not hear a voice, but I felt a certainty.
La primera vez, ya ustedes saben cuándo fue que sentí como que las respuestas siempre eran inmediatas.
I felt the responses were immediate,
pero que a veces no las escuchaba.
but I wouldn't listen to them.
Y hoy creo que el Espíritu Santo somos nosotros mismos en esa parte de nuestra mente que todavía no, que no olvida quiénes somos.
And today I believe that we are the Holy Spirit as habitants living in that part of the mind that has never forgotten.
Entonces, para mí, de cierta forma, el Espíritu Santo soy yo y cada uno de nosotros.
And for me, somehow the Holy Spirit is myself and each one of us.
Hablándonos desde el amor.
Talking to each one of us about love.
Y como me conoce, habla mi idioma, sabe cuándo, de qué manera entiendo mejor, utiliza la mejor manera en cada momento.
So since he knows me so well and listens to me so well, it uses the best way to communicate with me at every moment.
A veces es una canción, a veces es una conversación, a veces es mi hijo hablándome,
Sometimes it's
a
a
veces
song, a
es un
conversation,
pensamiento, a veces es un sueño.
sometimes my son, sometimes a song,
A veces es un pensamiento,
sometimes a thought.
un sueño. En los sueños me habla mucho.
Holy Spirit speaks.
Y bueno, para conectarlo con esto que les decía sobre si la voz fuera masculina y femenina, cuando me dijeron que después de las pruebas podíamos empezar a hacer el audiolibro.
And then about the voice with the audiobook, if it was going to be a feminine voice or a masculine voice to do the audiobook, what I was told.
Yo le pregunté a las personas de la fundación, pero van a elegir a alguien que hable, van a elegir a una mujer para hacer un audiolibro de un maestro que todos sabemos que pues físicamente tenía género masculino.
So I asked the foundation, are you going to choose a feminine voice to do the audiobook for a teacher that we all know had in his time the gender of a man?
Entonces la respuesta fue más o menos, ¿y quién te dice que era hombre o mujer si finalmente el Espíritu Santo no tiene género?
And they answered, who says it was a man or a woman? Finally, the Holy Spirit has no gender.
Y así pienso yo que la voz del Espíritu Santo llega, como
That's
cada
right.
quien la tiene que escuchar.
I feel the Holy Spirit's voice reaches each one of us in the way and form that each one of us needs.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Silvia. And thank you, Carolina. Okay, we have a few more minutes before we start wrapping up, but who else would like to share about their deepening trust in their practice?
I absolutely have something I'd like to share.
Yes.
Oh man. Yeah, I think as Maria said, trust really is everything. Right? For the teacher of God, it's like and in my experience, it is this kind of through a process of really fully surrendering, you know, and offering yourself over as a channel or an instrument of in service to God and to the Holy Spirit. It's really embodying that sense of trust in everything, right? And it's like every morning waking up and and calling on the Holy Spirit to work through you in that day. And it's not always going to be an easy process, right? And it's trusting in the process, like every challenge, every failure, every perceived loss or difficulty that's happening in your life, trusting in that as a teacher. And the Holy Spirit works in such beautiful ways, and its divine timing, it's guiding each of us through these opportunities to grow and learn and expand, because as the Course teaches, we do not know the way back to God, but the Holy Spirit knows the way for us, right? And knows how to find us and guide us back to our home. And so just trusting in each moment, each difficult moment, kind of reframing every challenge that you go through in your life and being thankful for that, right? It's a really, really difficult process to go through sometimes when you're in the moment, hear the moment, but it's so just powerful in terms of finding that inner peace and working through the challenges that we are faced with every day, and just trusting in the divine timing of the Holy Spirit and God's plan, and to bring us back home to Him and help us to just cleanse our perception so that we can shine be a clean mirror of His light and reflect back onto Him, onto the world, and to all of our brothers and sisters here, the light of of God. And it's just it's a really beautiful thing to be a part of, and I've just been deepening my own experience of that in my everyday life. And
I was going to say, Isa, I remember you sharing a story several weeks ago when we spoke at another time about how it was really a process for you to go forward, and you're stewarding your mother's work and her website and her foundation.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that was really a great opportunity to practice, because I think, as I remember, you were like, okay, what do I do? You're like, how do I go about doing this?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a mom of three. I have three young kids, and they're testing me every day, every moment of every day. They're my little reflections, showing me what I still have to heal, what I still have to forgive, and just the daily process of overlooking perceived error, and how do I want to reflect back onto them, and taking on this massive undertaking of really following Spirit's guidance for me to to carry on my mom's legacy in a big way when I'm home with the three kids, and getting myself to Mexico to be there in her honor. And it was a lot of just really having to trust that things were going to work out as God intends it to, and that the path would be laid out before me. And when I didn't, and kind of letting go of control, that's hard for me. It's a tough
hard for all of us.
Yeah. I would not know anything about that.
No.
Particularly the part of stepping in to, continue one's mother's work, and having a legacy foundation that one didn't expect to be stepping into. So yes, it's I would like to say that's also what listening is. It's saying, this is what I'm to do now. And there is a combination of the feeling of knowing, of hearing, which means you do have to be quiet. And it's hard for those of us who like to talk to be quiet and listen, to give the time for the silence to come through, for a voice to come through. But I'd like to say that everyone has their own style. So for anyone to say, you need to do this, you must do this. I am very busy in my mind, and spirit moves all of it to get the message through to me. So I don't have to be someone else. If I don't have time to sit and listen, I trust it will come through. If I don't even trust that it will come through, then it shows itself through different scenarios that unfold, because then I get to see it with my eyes. Oh, never thought I would see that person right now at this time who just came through. Okay, I get it. And if I don't get it there, then it's usually I'm hitting my head against the wall, and spirit comes through because I'm saying, okay, I give up. But an interesting thing I wanted to add is that, and I tell this story a lot, when we first got the search engine at the Foundation for Inner Peace, I was showing it to someone for the first time. And I said, pick any word and we'll look it up. And the word picked was surrender. And we looked it up, and I knew that the search engine must be broken because it didn't show up at all. There is no surrender in A Course in Miracles. And that is, it says, let go, release, all sorts of ways to release, control, everything else. But surrender is a word that can have implications of subjugation. I'm surrendering to you, and this is difficult for me. It is a different aspect. And we use it a lot. I use it a lot, but it is intriguing that it does not show up even once in A Course in Miracles. And the other thing I wanted to say is just to respond to those of us who say, it's not my only way. I'm doing something else as well. I'm doing many things as well. It was never made into a religion. It is a mind training from switching our minds from fear to love. It is deeply infused with spirit, but it can be done with anything else simultaneously. If it's contradictory, then you're going to get confused, but that's fine. Then the confusion with spirit will use that. But within that, to know there is a very clear reason why this is called A Course in Miracles, even though so many of us call it the Course in Miracles, particularly because we call it the Course, but it's called A Course in Miracles, and it has been said by the author himself, the voice in Jesus, that it's because it's not the only way. It is a very straight, narrow way up the mountain, very quick, but it's not the only way. And you can use anything else with it to support what your path is and what you feel, because it uses you as you, and it's not dictating anything, it's teaching, if you're interested, how to move to love. So I just wanted to add that.
Pam, I just wanted to say that really means a lot to hear, because forgiveness, I'm sure some people can relate, was very hard for me to understand. That's one of the biggest blocks I had when I first heard forgiveness, is you forgive people for what they didn't do. Only love, the love you gave in the past, and the one that you received is only what's really real. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I started to really understand forgiveness more when I read The Disappearance of the Universe, and I started to understand it more. But I really got the experience of it, the experience of forgiveness. I began to really have it when I began to do Byron Katie's 4 questions. One of the questions she asks is the question, who are you without the thought? That was that's when I was like, oh my God, I understand what forgiveness is. That's what it is. Letting go completely of the illusion of the judgment. Who would I be without the thought? For me, I always say the work, that 3rd question, who am I without the thought, is forgiveness on steroids. I think it's so helpful for course students. I always felt hush hush about it, but now I'm opening it up to community. I'm saying, and I love that you said that, Tam. Why? Because that is what love does. It's all inclusive. And I feel sometimes we shut down and there's only one way and it's so literal and the course and you're right, it's not a religion. So I say, open it up. I opened it up to the community. I said, this is very helpful. It has helped me understand what true forgiveness is. I actually just wrote to them, to Byron Katie and Steve Mitchell, and I told them, I said, I love your 4 questions. It's helped me understand the Course in Miracles better. And now I'm writing in my second book, a second chapter on how the Course and the 4 questions go together. So now I don't feel as guilty as I was before. Which I wasn't, but I'm so happy you said that because that is what love does. So thank you so much for speaking to that. I almost started crying. I was like, oh my God, yes. Okay.
It is all inclusive. It absolutely is. And I just want to finish up and move this back to Celina, but to say this will be continued. This was just a start. And thank you all for showing up so much because I think it's necessary. And I think it's necessary that we have many more of these. And thank you for putting up with those of us who do not speak Spanish. I lived in France as a young child and I was made to take French instead. I can do some crossover, but I really appreciate that. And I will say that my mother's favorite prayer, which is really more and more becoming my own, is love is the way I walk in gratitude. And I think I'm going to say that in Spanish. El amor es la forma en que camino en gratitude. It was funny yesterday that my computer in autocorrect, when I was writing it in English, said instead, el amor es la forma en que trabajo en gratitud. Love is the way I work in gratitude. And I thought, that's true too. So thank you all. And let me turn it over to Celina again.
Thank you so much. We just have a few more minutes. And I thought before we go, I wanted to finish off by showing just a couple of photos. We spoke about these stories at the beginning and all of these players. So I had just very quickly a couple of photos, but I also found this beautiful little clip from a movie that it was a documentary that was filmed and that came out many years ago in 1987. And it's called The Story of A Course in Miracles. And we actually featured it last month. And it's a 2-part documentary. At the end of the second part of the documentary, which the first part is called The Forgotten Song. And then the second part of the documentary is called The Song Remembered. And it is a beautiful feature of the core students, early core students who shared how the teachings have impacted them. We heard from a lot of different people, but then right at the end, there is this portion of the movie where Judy speaks about the translations and how they came to be. And she speaks about how the Holy Spirit uses us. We often don't even know what we're doing or how we're doing it. I think many of us spoke to that today, but it was really, really beautiful. And what was also very beautiful about this piece is early on when Isa started speaking at the very beginning about her mom and that she would have this group of readers that would hold Isa when Isa was a baby. You can see this in the documentary. We don't see you, Isa, but we see the group of readers, and you'll see Rosa Maria and a couple of the other translators. It's only about 2 or 3 minutes. So if you would just bear with me, I think it would be a nice way to end this. This is the image to share of Judith Sketchwitzen, again, our founder. And at the very beginning clip, she spoke about Emilio Guzman, and this is his wife, with his wife Conchita. We have this photo on our website. Okay. And of course, we have this picture of Rosa Maria I already shared. And all of this work, part of the title of today was How Spanish Paved the Way for the Other Translations. And now we have 27 full translations that you can also see. So I wanted to show a picture. Here's the documentary.
As we all, a large body of people, began studying A Course in Miracles, there were those whose language was not English. And as they became more and more interested in and dedicated to learning this belief system, they felt the need to put it into their own language. Various individuals, self-appointed, who felt he or she had the skill to do this job, came forward and identified themselves and said, this seems to be what I am being inner guided to do. Would it be all right if I put this material into my own language? Well, of course it's all right, but who was to watch over it and who was to help guide it through its process? I almost forgot that it wasn't to be human, but rather the source, which gave it in the first place.
Does that have a connotation, a spatial connotation?
The Course is now being translated into almost a dozen languages. A great deal of loving attention is being given as each word, each phrase is discussed, alternatives come into view, they're discarded perhaps or used, but with great deal of care, it's evolving. I sometimes think that central casting has an incredible sense of humor to put people like us in the position of helping birth this along, since we have absolutely no qualifications whatsoever for the job. But I guess that's just to reinforce the belief system, that with God, all things are possible.
Le miracle réel, c'est l'amour qui les inspire.
תמיד חוזרת למחשבה. מי ביושר פשוט, ללא התגוננות ורמייה
los santos
עצמית,
compañeros que van contigo, te darás cuenta de que no hay tal viaje, sino solo un
Deswegen
despertar.
bitten sie um die Liebe, die sie heilen würde, aber die sie sich selbst vorenthalten.
So I will stop it there, but I wanted to share that all with you. And thank you all so much for your participation today in sharing your story and being a part of this and helping to share the message of the Course with the Spanish-speaking world. And we're really thankful for you.
After Spanish being the first gift of language translation to our community, we now have it in 27 different languages, and by 2025, there'll be 2 more, so it'll be 29 languages. And because it was so fun to hear my mother say, and it's in how many? A dozen languages? Yeah.
Only like 12.
Wanted to add that.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much. I think that I will just share a few words here as we go. We will, of course, want to thank our guests and our attendees for joining us today, as well as our team here at the Foundation for Inner Peace, our staff and volunteers. And we, of course, give our appreciation to all those who donate to the Let's Discuss webinar series. It's really your donations that keep these events coming every month. So we thank you for them. Before we go, we have just a couple of very short announcements. And if you are here with us live or watching this as a direct replay, keep an eye on the group chat and we'll post some of the information there. Just so you know, we're almost to the month of October, and we've had a lot happen this summer, and we'll have more coming this month. So at the Foundation's website, we have an events page. You can stay posted there about the next webinar that'll come in October. But we will also be having an announcement about the ACIM audio app, something that we're all pretty excited about. And this is the ACIM audio app that came out last December, and we have an update for it next month. So we hope you stay tuned and you share in the fun with us come October. Before we go, we've created a short survey that we will display on your browser when the session ends. So please give us your feedback for today's session. It is in English as well as in Spanish. So with all of that and with love and gratitude, thank you all for being here. And we look forward to having you again soon. So be well and take care. Gracias.